Oh yeah. Welcome to episode 1 of the 84 Hour. Brothers and sisters, good to see you. Let me just give a shout out to my sponsor. This episode is brought to you by DGC, the highest benchmark in creative slab presentations for your comic books needs. Brother. So, welcome to the 84 Hour. This is going to be this is kind of an impromptu idea, but you know what? I think this is going to be a show that I'm going to do on a regular basis that's going to, have a focused topic each episode, or a couple topics an episode. I may perhaps have guests at some point, and it's because I do like digging into certain topics as opposed to the freestyle. I don't want all my content to be like freestyle chat hangs. So I'm going to deliver to you some hot topic conversation. Before I get into the content of this episode, let me just give a warm welcome to the chat. Kavi NYC, a show with hour in the title sounds familiar. Oh. Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty common one. I was thinking my MMA hour with Ariel Hawani is an inspiration. I think Kavi has the original art hour, if I'm not mistaken. 2 others. I know original art hour. What's the other one, Kavi? JP, budget collecting, the darker side, and becoming a speculator. I've always been a speculator to some extent. It's just a part of the hobby for me and not what it's all about. Greetings to the Unruly Simeon. Good to see you, man. Chris Beasy in the house. Appreciate you. 36 Chambers in the house. Geeks, Drinks, Comics. Mr. Geeks on Instagram. Good to see you. D-Runk Comics. Oh, the president of our sponsor of DGC. I appreciate you supporting the 84 Hour program and your continued support. And let's not forget, Mark the Cuddy Sark, man. Mark the Cuddy Sark's hanging. Appreciate you. Mr. Miracle Comics in the building. Oh, Roger, Javi, are you guys all in here? Yeah, Metarog's in the house. Javi. Is Conquistadork in here? My boy Conquistadork. Oh, maybe I misread that as copy. Okay. Whoa, look at this. Mr. Miracle Comics went to a comic show today and got recognized by 8 different people. Wow. Who knew that that many people even had Wi-Fi in the frozen tundra of Canada that Miracle lives in? That's pretty cool, man. That's good for you. I've been to like 3 pretty big cons since I started YouTubing, and not a damn person recognized me other than the homies. So go figure. Okay. So this episode, I am gonna breeze through a couple of some C2E2 pickups because a couple of them are going to transition me into the topic, and it wasn't a heavy pickup session over at C2E2 for me. But I figured, I don't even know if there's enough stuff that I picked up that would warrant a whole show, and I feel like I showed a lot of my stuff already, so I didn't want to devote a whole show to that. Because first, it's a small haul, and I think you guys have seen most of it. But there's a couple that you may not have. The two big tickets, as you know, is the Hulk 181. Fantastic. 7.0. Beautiful. I was dotted this 8.0 Submariner #1. Very honored on that. And the purple label. The purple label is on its way out. It's been purchased. This just reminded me that I got to package it up tonight. So those are the two slabs. Let me put that on my bed so I remember. Those are two killer books. Yeah, great duo. Agreed. I was really happy to have those two, and yeah, I bought I purchased the book off community member D Runk Comics, and even though it was like friend prices and stuff, I still had to make. He gave me like a decent deal, but I still had to make the decision to drop a significant amount of money. Most of my con budget. That's kind of why my haul is pretty light. So I thought about it because it wasn't a book that was really on my radar, just because it was kind of cost prohibitive. But I figured I would regret it if I didn't take an opportunity to get that book now. I would think that this book is probably going to tend to grow in price, I guess. So, I had to take it home, dude. Hulk 181 in the collection. Very gassed. Yeah, D-Run says I fucked up your con. Yeah, you threw me for an entire loop, dude. But I wouldn't have it any other way. Other con pickups. This wasn't so much a con pickup as much as an AOK torpedo from my brother J Hood Creative. He had a torpedo sent to the hotel, and in said torpedo was the Punchline keys, Hell Arisen and Batman 89. These two books will come up again later in the comic book speculation style segment. I picked up Doc Savage #1. Just I didn't have like my heart's. I wasn't like seeking out this book. I don't even know if I think there was like some kind of this made like a hot list or something, but I got to be honest, the hot list I didn't really get it for that reason. But I will say the little hot list thing just reminded me of this issue, put it back because I'd seen this book before, but it just put it back on my radar, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a cool book to have. I'd like to have that 20 center in the collection. And stumbled across it for like $10, and I took it. I didn't really buy it for the speculation wager of Doc Savage because I can't imagine anything of real note is going to happen there. Yeah, exactly. Doc Savage just equals coolness. That's why I picked it up. But I'll say it's one of those books that I kind of like forgot about, and the list, it showing up like on lists was like, oh yeah, let me grab that. I also picked up this cool Adam Hughes Vampirella cover, which I thought was pretty cool. I paid $3 for this. I had just never seen it before, so I had to scoop it. Mr. Miracle says Doc Savage is getting his own show. Let's put a pin in that because I'd like to touch on my thoughts on that. And lastly, as far as like books purchased, it was just this one. I got those two, the two big boy slabs. And yeah, Dave Stevens, Alien Worlds, number 4. This one is one of the classic, in my opinion, classic Dave Stevens covers that I wanted to pick up. It's in the top 5 of Dave Stevens cover artwork issues that I wanted to add to the collection. Number 1 was the Planet Comics one, the yellow colored slab of the chicks riding the rocket. Made a point to get that one. But this one was also kind of high on my list of excellent, to me, classic Dave Stevens cover artwork. So scooped up Alien Worlds for $5. Published by Pacific Comics. The same publisher that put out, Captain Victory, the Jack Kirby project. Hello, hi, Lucha Libre. Good to see you, man. Dollar Bin Fodder, what up, man? Welcome. Chris Lackey, thank you, sir. It is a great book, isn't it? And then aside from that, those 3 books, these 2 raw books, those 3 raw books, these 2 slabs, and 2 additions to the Batman Blank sketchbook project, which, if you're not aware, I got this Batman Blank book, and my project was every time I go to a con, I'm going to have a different artist do a Batman villain on a page inside until I fill it up. And it's like a cool, so far I've been to 3 cons that I've had this worked on. It's kind of like a little memorabilia thing for me, like kind of marking the different cons that I've been to. It's fun for me when I go to the cons to like seek out the artist and figure out which one I want to commission and which character. It's just a cool thing. I really dig it. Notoriously, the ventriloquist is on the cover of this book. This was a mishap. I commissioned a fella to do the ventriloquist and Scarface inside the book, and he put it on the cover. Kind of a bummer. I was reserving the cover for a big Batman piece, and not only a big Batman piece. Sorry, that's messing up my lighting. Not only a big Batman piece, but like a higher end published artist to do a Batman piece, maybe even wrap around. So it was going to be all inside villains, and the cover was going to be Batman. But this guy kind of threw a wrench in that. He felt bad. He gave it to me for free, which was appreciated. I thought that was cool. I thought his style was perfect. I like his take on ventriloquist Scarface, a customer that I dig. I mean, a character that I really dig. So I was happy with it. Yo, fodder. Yeah, probably. Yeah, why not? Hit me up on, I don't know if I've chatted with you on the Instagrams, but hit a brother up. So I'll run you through it real quick before I bring you to the 2 new additions I made. These were from Boston Fan Expo. I got a Harley Quinn in there, Catwoman, Mr. Freeze, Two-Face. Two-Face was Boston as well. Then we go to Baltimore. Wait. Yeah, then we go to Baltimore. I got Bane, done in Baltimore. Bob McLeod, brothers and sisters, did a Joker for me in Baltimore. Fantastic. And the 2 new additions from C2E2. Poison Ivy. I didn't give him any direction. I just said, hey, can you do a Poison Ivy? And he dropped Batman Forever, Uma Thurman style in there. Or Batman and Robin, rather. Uma Thurman style. So that was cool. And Newligan was there. I don't know if you're familiar with Newligan, but he does a lot of like graffiti-ish style with his art. And for him, because I kind of cater the artist a little bit to the characters. And for him, I said, I think you could do a good Victor Zsasz for me. And he did. That's Newligan's Victor Zsasz, which was very cool. Bang. Yo, what up, Mastodon? Just an hour? That's it? We'll see. At this rate, unlikely. No, I'm going to try to keep it to an hour. And I haven't even gotten to my topic yet. So, boom. That's the Batman sketchbook. I'm really happy with this thing. My brother D-Runk Comics and Geeks, Drinks, and Comics got another issue of Batman Blank started for me with a couple pieces in there by Mrs. Runk. Another artist did a Bane in there. Geeks did a piece. So what I'm planning to do is to have someone pop the staples, make this a double cover, get a blank white cover back over this. It'll just be double covered. And merge the two books together is the idea. I did also, well, I guess I'm lying. The other raw books that I picked up were just blank sketches. I don't know if you can see them because the white tissue paper thing, but I got a Punisher blank, which I'm looking forward to working on. I picked up a Doomsday Clock blank that I want to do something on. I don't know if I want to do Dr. Manhattan on here or Night Owl and Rorschach together on here. So we'll see. Hey, what up, Kachung? Appreciate you tuning in, man. Hey, party people in the place to be. Wolf 1 is in the house. Even though I'm clicked on Kachung. There he is. Wolf 1 are in the building. Jackson Roy Kirk. Hero and the Kid. Which, by the way, Hero and the Kid, I do eventually want to get on Young Will's program, his interview show. Those have been cool, and I think one of these days I'd love to sit and chat with the young man. So put me on the list. Funk, Count Von Strange. He used to avoid blanks like the coronavirus, but now he collects them. Yeah, man, they're fun. There's a Batman lurking behind this tissue paper. And then I got a Thor. I got a Thor blank that I actually just dropped a sketch on earlier today. I was kind of in a sketching mood. And I did this. Thor, Odin's son. So that was one that I did today on one of the blank sketches that I picked up at C2E2. Boom. Okay. Now, let's get to the topic at hand. So comic book speculation, or there's comic book speculation, or just going after undervalued books. Is like Mr. Miracle's program where he's pointing out undervalued keys that you should get now, because you can look at it a couple ways. The spec thing, you can want to make a point to grab books at good prices before they jump, just for your collection, or pick up some books that are going to add value to your collection as a whole, and maybe you can sell them at some point and feed the hobby, as it were. I think I get such a kick out of going out and hunting for comics, and I do like the kind of the speculation game a little bit. So I think it's fine, the selling of comics, buying and selling within to other collectors in the community. I think is a healthy part of the hobby, especially if you're, you know, trying to put out good deals to fellow collectors and stuff. Fantastic. I say power to you. Now, even though I do enjoy a little speculation, in my opinion, there's speculation that I avoid and the speculation that I like. So, why don't I touch on speculation that I really don't get into? So, new comic book day stuff. I know there's a whole game to trying to get ahead of what's coming out on New Comic Book Day Wednesday and trying to pick winners there, right? Now, to do that just for the sake of, trying to make a buck, which again is fine to me, is something I'm not trying to get into. I feel like they're not battle tested. I prefer to, when I'm trying to get books that I'm kind of speculating with, I'm back in the Bronze Age, primarily. Bronze Age, Silver Age, Copper Age. I think those books hold their value better, because new comic book day stuff, you have two big concerns. You have the risk that no one's going to care about them and they're not going to pop. And two, if they do rise in value, they have a way higher chance of dramatically dropping in price in relatively short order, And I think guys like JP Budget collecting his 6-month look back show, I think shed some light on that. Take care, Miracle. So I don't get into all that, the new comic book day stuff. I don't think there's enough new characters coming out and new books that, even if I know people do make money with that, and there's some success stories, but I bet you it's a pretty small percentage that it makes it worthwhile. Books like this, the Punchline keys that everyone, that got crazy a little bit. I think it's interesting, to be Joker's right-hand gal like Harley Quinn is meaningful. You know what I'm saying? The only thing is we don't know what DC has in store for the character on what they're going to do with it, It's really up to DC whether this book is going to be anything of value or not. It doesn't even come down to the market at that point. It comes down to if DC makes Punchline a character that's worth giving a shit about, then great. These are good books to have. But we'll see. I mean, DC and Marvel's track record of introducing new characters and really feeding them with what they need to be a success, with putting the best writers on, not just taking advantage of the initial hype of the character, but trying to build them into a really worthwhile addition to comics. I feel like they're not that good at that. If you guys watched the Graders Notes, the last Graders Notes, I talked about, I think the introduction of Wolverine was one of the best introductions of a new character out there. Because, hey, you flash back to 1974, it's the same thing's happening. They're introducing a new character into the universe, and you're left to wonder, is this character going to be anything? Is it not? Well, I'll tell you what, for a character like that, Wolverine, they had plans to introduce him in X-Men, right? X-Men 94. And they could have easily just introduced him in giant size X-Men like they did the other characters, Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler. But they cared about the character enough to say, you know what, let's bring it back one step. Let's thread the needle back in the Hulk, a very popular title, and establish this character as a badass first. So you kind of had a little taste of what you were getting by the time you got to giant size X-Men. And then they assigned top tier writers like Chris Claremont and awesome artists like Cockrum and Byrne. And that's how you make a character successful and worth giving a shit about. Are they going to take that similar route with Punchline? Are they going to set the table for her and put the best writers and artists they can to make this a legit character? I don't know. I feel like most of the time they don't, which is why, per my original point here, New Comic Book Day spec is a pass for me. Okay. The next kind of spec that I avoid, right? And this may hit you as a hot take. And I'm going to grab an example here. Okay, so where'd it go? Hold on. It's okay. I'll still be able to make my point without this one particular book. TV show spec. TV show announcement spec. Now, when I hear that a character is going to get their own TV show, Unruly Simeon, I think, mentioned, or maybe it was Mr. Miracle that mentioned, hey, Doc Savage is going to get his own TV show. And I can't tell you how many books make certain hot lists because there's a TV show in the works. Now, in my opinion, TVs ain't the big time. TVs are not, they don't affect, because my understanding, the idea of speculation and why it actually works or makes sense that certain books go up in value is by increasing mainstream awareness and making more of a mainstream group of people fans of a certain character means you are increasing the demand for that book, right? Now, we know in the main comic book collecting is not a widely enjoyed hobby. It's a shame, I know. They don't know what they're missing, right? But it's not a mainstream hobby. So you have a certain amount of collectors here. But I do think that there's the middle range, almost like the swing voters in politics, where they're not hardcore one way or the other. They're not ravenous comic fans, and they're not totally clueless. They're someone that they used to read some comics as a kid. They think comic characters are cool. The movies are cool. And someone like that, after watching, say, Guardians of the Galaxy, could become a real fan of Star-Lord or Rocket Raccoon. My boy, Comic Smurf, comes to mind, where he said, I got back into comics because after watching Guardians of the Galaxy. So when you position these characters and make them really cool and you put them on a mainstream stage, there's a percentage of those people that might get back into comics or just want to have a collectible of that character, and they say, hey, maybe their first appearance. So you increase the demand for the book, which will make the value go up, right? That makes sense. Now, TV shows don't affect mainstream consciousness as much as films do. TV shows are, this ain't the 1960s, 70s, where you had a few networks and you had a handful of choices. And you know what I'm saying? At 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night, half the country's watching the Brady Bunch and shit like that. There is an unlimited amount of TV shows out there, practically. So many networks, so many streaming services. The list goes on and on. So I don't, back to the original point of what we were saying of why these movie deals even make the books more valuable to begin with, which is increasing mainstream attention. That doesn't work for TV shows because TV shows are too niche that it's not going to have the same effect. The book that's in the other room that I forgot to grab was Deadly Class #1. All right. I'm sure, I don't know firsthand, but I'm sure it made some kind of hot list when they announced that Sci-Fi was going to make a TV show. And that was an indie title that probably had one of the best recipes to be a success as you can get. The goddamn Russo brothers were the executive producers from Marvel Endgame fame. Rick Remender, the writer of the series, was, if not directly writing the script, he was heavily involved with the process. That's a plus. That means that you're going to get the original intent of the creator, which usually means better quality of the show. Cool concept, the whole bit. I guess the only downside was it was on the Sci-Fi Network. But honestly, nowadays the network barely even matters because there's so many. Now, that book, Deadly Class, was and it was a great show too. I really enjoyed that series. It didn't get renewed and whatnot. That book, if you go look for it now, you can still get it for about the same price. It maybe gained an equity of like $5. That's a #1 issue that you can find for $15, and it didn't mean shit. Okay. The CW shows. If a DC character is gonna be premiered in a CW show, one of the many CW shows, I feel like that's not important in terms of collecting. It's not going to increase the value, so whatever. Classic properties like Watchmen, right? I mean, this was a great series, and it got on HBO, the best network out there. It was a super quality show, and even that show didn't increase the value, really, of Watchmen, #1. So there's my take on TV show spec. I avoid it, and the hot take that I have here is, personally, I feel like the Disney Plus TV shows that are coming out, even though they're connected to the MCU and all that, brothers and sisters, I think that even the MCU shows on Disney Plus are gonna, for the most part, suffer the same fate of not really being that big of a deal. I think it's probably more meaningful than a lot of other shows that we see, like CW stuff, but I still don't think that the mere fact of a TV show, even on Disney Plus, is gonna matter all that much. Hold on, let me accept this offer here on this eBay book. Hold on, guys. I'm pulling the trigger on a spec book right now. This is going to be great. This is going to be great television. Ooh, good point. Good point by Johnny Dakota. Only good TV spec related show was The Walking Dead. Yeah, that one was a true home run. I think that that's a real unicorn. As we know, that was years and years ago that show started, and that's a real unicorn on indie books that turn into shows that really matters. Um, Let me check in with the chat here a little bit. Deadly Class went from cover to $20 to $40, and then way back down after the cancellation of the show. Yeah, man. And honestly, I think even while the show was on TV, I noticed you could still find it at a pretty good deal. You're right, the cancellation really made it drop, but I'm not sure about that. Let's see, we got some feedback here about the TV show point, which I figured would be disagreed with a bit. Not true. What about the Netflix Marvel shows? Yeah, I mean, I suppose I don't have the numbers in front of me to really see, but I'd be curious to know how much ASM 129, the first appearance of the Punisher, which is a money book regardless, how much did John Bernthal Punisher Netflix show affect ASM 129? Did it really make it skyrocket? I'm not sure. The Disney Plus streaming series are an intricate part of Phase 4 and 5. Over the ABC Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was low budget, true. Disney Plus will have big budgets. Yeah, no doubt. Like the Scarlet Witch and Vision show, even though they got introduced before, you would think them having their own show would have the same effect of maybe increasing appeal, and I'm not sure it is. One thing I'll definitely concede the point on is that, yes, I do think that Marvel, and especially Disney Marvel projects, are a lot more relevant than other TV show spec. I agree. But I don't think that my point is I think TV show spec is weak, and don't sleep. Even the Disney Plus shows are susceptible to its weakness. You know what I'm saying? I do think stuff like She-Hulk, perhaps Miss Marvel, those have the potential to really affect the price of a book. But, I don't think it's always home run just because they got the show. Daredevil was a good show and they canceled it. Do you think it helped increase the comic book? Yeah, that's a good question. If anyone has that kind of data at their, accessible to them, I'm curious how much the Netflix show affect the value of ASM 129. Because I'm not sure. I could be wrong. And I will, like I said, concede that the Marvel projects, when they're done right, Netflix, Disney Plus, they are a bit more meaningful, but not as much as the movies, guys. Movies just make books react better than TV shows ever will, is all I'm saying. Lastly, on spec that I avoid is super minor characters. When some really smaller supporting cast character is getting introduced into a movie even or a show and it affects the books big time, that don't mean, I'm trying to think of an example of one. Maybe chat, you can think of an example of this, but sometimes these really small characters are going to make a cameo in something, and I don't think Crossbones is probably a decent example. Did MCU make Crossbones' first appearance jump big time? I'm not sure about that. Don't sleep on Taserface. Yeah, Taserface. Okay. Now, so that's my general take on the spec that I don't really get down with. New comic book day stuff is a pass for me. The FOMO doesn't bother me that I missed out on a new book. I'm cool with it. It's not even the stuff that I really like to collect. anymore, so I don't worry about it. Because in my little Venn diagram of speculation and collecting, I don't chase every single spec that's out there, and the ones that I do is stuff that I like. It makes collecting it more fun to me. So I would suggest that too, so that you're not putting all kind of money into like a spec book that you really don't want, because you might get left with it. So you got to get that Venn diagram going that you'd be cool with having the book. TV show spec is overrated. Optioned spec is way overrated. Just because something's optioned really doesn't mean shit. Doesn't Why the Last Man has been optioned for, it feels like 10 years now. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if we'll ever see that goddamn show. So optioned, I'm hitting the snooze button on optioned key news, brother. So here's the kind of spec that I have been partaking in the categories that they fall in. So the first kind of spec is news nugget spec, I'm going to call it. Okay? News nugget spec. I think that a lot of people are really late to the party on a lot of spec books, like bigger spec books. Sorry, let me just make sure this purchase is made. Yeah, because this will make for good dramatic effect in a moment. Yeah, I think lots of people are late to the party on spec. Now, news nugget spec. A lot of times, a book reaches its big value spike when casting is done. Trailers for sure really make a book kind of hot, and really definitive announcements of when filming is going to start and all that shit. Now, that's kind of late in the overall process it takes when they decide to introduce a new character or a new movie or a show. Casting and stuff is pretty well along that path. Most of the time, there's some initial announcement that a property is definitely going to get done. So, Eternals, number one. As soon as I read an article that said the Eternals movie is happening, right? I bought this book. And it seems that I bought it still early enough that I was able to have this book's value climb a bit. I've gained some equity on this book because I bought it maybe 2 years ago. And keep in mind, that's the kind of timeline that you're going to need to anticipate for especially movie projects, but even some, TV projects, if it seems like it's, going to be a meaningful TV show, like She-Hulk, I think is going to be. So this was 2 years ago that I bought this fucking book, and Eternals is going to come out this year. So you got to keep that in mind too. And I'm just saying, I'm not saying this is what you guys got to do. I'm saying how I roll with spec is I'll pick up stuff like this knowing that I'm going to hang on to it for a while. I still like the fact that I have it in my collection. That's why I was talking about the Venn diagram. Is yes, I think this book is going to. I think people are super sleeping on Eternals being a real success. But I think that's not going to yield me the flip reward or whatever until it comes out. So when I bought this and I knew they were definitely doing Eternals, I knew it was going to be a couple years. Now, in the meantime of those 2 years, I am totally happy to own a high-grade copy of the Eternals #1 because I'm a big Jack Kirby fan, and this is Bronze Age, right? Yeah, Bronze Age Marvel fan. So I'm happy to have this in my collection, and even if nothing crazy happens with its value, I'm happy to keep it in my collection. So my point there is, when I see a news report and they say, "Yo, Eternals is going to get confirmed, a movie's going to happen," right there is when you probably want to strike on it. Don't wait for casting. Don't wait for release dates and all that kind of shit. And yeah, and this is a good point here, Kari. He doesn't plan on selling his copy. He just wanted it in the PC before prices got too high. Yes, because that's how I feel about this book. I'm a huge She-Hulk fan. I love She-Hulk. The John Byrne run is one of my favorite things to read and enjoy the artwork on. Cool character, all that stuff. So I actually bought this book before the show was announced. Not by too long, but I bought this before the show was announced. And yeah, thankfully I did, because this is a book that I don't want to sell this copy, but I want it in the collection. And yeah, it's nice that I got it for probably at least $50 less than what it's going for now, because it was before the news, you know. Now, here's part 2 of my news nugget spec, okay? Spider-Verse. The Spider-Verse movie was a big success, right? And you know they're primed for a sequel. And you know that Spider-Verse has the potential to... It has so many characters to choose from, right? Because they made like 1,000 goddamn spider character alterations. And we know from the first one, they could use anyone. Who could predict that we would see Spider-Man Noir on the big screen? That, I forget her name, but the anime chick in the spider robot suit. Who would have thought you'd see that character on the big screen? So it's a real crapshoot to guess which character they're going to use. But I remember after that movie came out, I was reading an article from the producers of that movie. Was it the producers, or it might have been the producers, but 2 people that were, worked on the film and are going to work on the second one, because they were already talking about them planning on the sequel movie. Now, where's the book? Hang on. And in that article, they said, "Oh, so do you guys plan on doing a sequel?" They said, "Yes, we do." They say, "Man, with such an array of characters in the Spider-Verse, are there any other characters that you've considered?" And they both answered the question. And one of the people said, "Yeah, you know what? Spider-Punk is a character that I think is really cool. So it would be fun to work on that character in the next movie." That wasn't an announcement that, hey, guess what? He's going to be in the next movie. All I know is you had a producer who was working on the film, is going to work on the next film. Spider-Punk is on his radar, and he said, "I like Spider-Punk. I'd like to work on him." So right there, I said, okay, I bet you there's a damn good chance in the next movie, Spider-Punk's going to be in that bitch. Because he's such a super cool... To me, he's one of the better spider personas out there. So that was a news nugget spec. The other character that was mentioned, the other producer got asked that question. And she said, "Oh, I really like Silk. Silk is a really fun character. Da-da-da." So I was like, okay, mental note taken. Silk would be a good first appearance to have. And I think they pretty much already announced that she's going to be in the sequel. And it makes sense. They're leaning more towards the female lead roles. So that makes Silk very likely. I think in that next movie, you're going to see a little trio I think Miles was still going to be in it, but I bet you're going to see a trio of Spider-Gwen, Silk, um, and drum roll, drum roll, drum roll, Spider-Woman. I think Spider-Woman is likely to probably also appear in that film. You know? Yeah, no doubt, Johnny. Not just female roles, but Asian roles as well. Yeah, yeah, and I think that's going to go into uh, my last. I have two more bullet points of collect specking styles, and I'm going to touch on that. And just a reminder that this episode is brought to you by my sponsor, DGC. You want to hit up DGC for all your comic book slabbing needs. Again, he doesn't grade the books, but he puts them in a beautiful presentation, and the whole community is eagerly awaiting the announcement of their availability. So, boom. That's that part. News nugget specs, okay? Keep up on your news nuggets, man. I think it was a meaningful piece of information that those producers said those characters by name and said they were interested in doing them. So I said, okay, mental check note. This character's on their radar. Eventually, I bet something's going to happen. Boom. Again, I'm more of a long-term spec guy, and I'm fine with it because I'm just making it part of my collecting. I'm not buying a book so I can flip it immediately. That's a different style of spec that stresses me out. That's the new comic book day style, which again, nothing wrong with it. I'm just telling you about how I roll. That shit's too stressful for me. Okay? Yeah, see? Eagerly awaiting the DGC rollout. Ain't we all, brother? Ain't we all? Next up, next up is, I'm going to call this next category character bets. Okay? When I'm thinking along the lines of speculation, I'm making certain character bets. And this is when you're going off of, no solid news of anything. That's when I'm just going off my gut and what I think will probably be used eventually at some point, right? So here's some character bets, examples of character bets that I have. One is ones that are already announced. So like Black Knight, okay? Personally, I'm of the opinion that the Black Knight, who it's already announced, right? The book Avengers 48 has already experienced a bit of an increase in value because of that announcement, right? Okay. I think it's still an underestimated book. I think motherfuckers don't realize what MCU Marvel has in store for Mr. Black Knight. Because first, I think it's very intentional that they're putting him in the Eternals movie. He's not really like an Eternals character, but they're introducing him in a cameo there. And I think it might be because we might be seeing him later, in non-Eternals stuff. Because he's not tethered to the Eternals universe necessarily. I also think that they casted fucking Jon Snow, okay? Who they cast in the roles usually tells you something about how much they plan to use the character and what they have planned for the character. If they had casted, Joe Schmo or like something for the Black Knight role, I probably would be paying a little less attention to the Black Knight character. Jon Snow, that actor, Kit Harington, is super fucking popular. He's a likable guy. He's a good actor. He has his own built-in fan base, is what I'm saying. Like, there's people that are just Kit Harington fans. And guess what? All those Kit Harington fans are going to be Black Knight fans. I also think that Marvel does really good if we use the track record of Guardians of the Galaxy, that they're good. They probably even perform even a little better when it's more unknown properties, which they can tweak with the tone of the book or of the movie rather than others. Here's one of my Black Knight keys. I mentioned on another program that I think this is a sleeper pick. If you can't, if the Avengers 48 is a little out of your price range, this ain't a bad book to pick up, because this book is already at about $100, in nice condition. There's a key to it that I forget. I have to look it up, but keep your eye on this. Marvel Superheroes Presents number 17, featuring the Black Knight. It's a very early appearance, and there's something key about it. I'll try to look it up before the end of the show. So I'll also be looking for not only the first appearance, but maybe there's some just because what do they say? A rising tide lifts all boats, lifts all ships. So if a character really pops, yeah, their first appearance, you can bet, is going to increase in value. But a lot of their other minor key books are also going to be more important to people. So don't sleep on that as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, this book is a good example of when the She-Hulk got announced. Yeah, her number 1 went up in price, but guess what? So did her Jump Rope issue of Sensational She-Hulk. That book went up in price. A lot of her hot covers did. So surrounding keys is also something to look at. Is also something that I look at. I really don't want this video to come off as like, here's my guide to speculating. This is how you need to do it. I'm just like, I don't know, filling y'all in on my thought process on it. I'd like to also get input on you guys too, Oh yeah, no, I know that. Dollar Bin Fodder saying, nah, 48's the money book. Yeah, obviously. The first appearances are going to be the money books, but I'm just kind of establishing the point that, and I think the Jump Rope issue of She-Hulk is a good example of surrounding keys, rising tide lifts all ships. And funny you say that about Avengers 48, because I did say earlier in the program I had to make sure I went and hit the pay now button on, I was doing some little offers, my offer, counter offer, da-da-da. And I got it, man. I'm putting my money where my mouth is on my pitch on the Black Knight. I really think the Black Knight's pretty legit. And bang, your boy's got this book on its way. Avengers 48. Happy to add that to the collection. Yeah. Hylia says, nice, finally. I know, because I've been saying how I wanted that book for a while. Black Knight was spec'd a few years ago. Yeah, I'm sure. I think, like, to my earlier point of, like, look for those news nuggets early, because, yeah, I'm sure when they initially announced Black Knight was going to come out, that was maybe your time to hop on that. So even though I feel like I'm a little late to the party on that book, I still think people are underestimating how popular that motherfucker's going to be. So, and plus, I'm still, and like I said, why I don't spec on new comic book day shit is because even if the value goes down on that fucking book, I'm still going to be stoked to have some 1960s Avengers in my collection. Like, you know what I mean? You gotta get that Venn diagram. I don't spec on new comic book day shit, because if it doesn't pan out, I don't want a bunch of fucking bullshit books that I don't want taking up space. You know, I don't chase every spec, but the ones that I wouldn't mind having in the collection that I think I'm gonna, predict will rise in value, that's my sweet spot right there. You know what I mean? Because I'm happy to sit on books for a year or two until like something pans out. So I don't want garbage sitting in my collection while I'm waiting for it to pop. Like I said, I'm happy to have that in the collection. Let me pop into the chat a little bit. Yeah, we're going over a little bit of an hour. We said the 84 hour, but that's like a euphemism. What up, Kingdom? Good to see you, man. You can assume with the original cast, you can say Holland will probably do another 10 years. Now, what books can be spec'd on with Spider-Man for the next few years, right? Are they going to do Craven? Good question. Good question. Dollar Bin. Black Knight is the new wave of Avengers. Thor or Iron Man. I think Black Knight will be one of, if not the leader of the Avengers with Doctor Strange. Yes. Yes. So, MCU likes to take chances on A-list actors that are not at the top of their game. That way they can lock them in for 5-10 years and pay bottom dollar. Yeah, that's probably right. Yeah, I think right now is a very interesting time for like these MCU, because let's be honest, MCU is, if you're trying to play the spec game and the kind that I like, the long-term spec and the kind of spec that's going to bring you into the Bronze Age, the Silver Age, that's where I think is the most fun. Then MCU is what matters, right? MCU news in movies, that takes up, I would say, fucking 75% of the spec game, what Disney's doing. And I think it's a very interesting time because we just went through the whole Avengers saga. Avengers is done. I don't think they're going to be the premier property anymore, because Avengers existed in a way that all the other movies like revolved around it and connected to it in some way. But those days are over, bro. Avengers is, I think, going to take the back seat. We may still see some kind of Avengers action, but I would think they're going to build and revolve the cinematic universe around either Fantastic Four or X-Men, But that means that it's opening up a lot of opportunities. Like, we're at the beginning of the next 10-year plan. They just executed their big 10-year plan, and now it's the next chapter, which means new characters, new concepts, new properties. So that's what makes it fun as fuck to me. It's like, okay, we can really dig in and try and predict what it's going to be, Yeah, like Barrett said, it's going to be young Avengers or new Avengers. Yeah, a new team is going to be assembled, and I agree. I think the Black Knight motherfucker is going to be a big part of that. I think they're just using the Eternals to intro Jon Snow, Man of the North. Now, so this part of the show is character bets, right? Character bets. So Black Knight is a character bet. I heard him mentioned a few times in the chat, and I completely agree, dude. When it comes to the Spider-Man universe, there's one character that I think they need to use. I think they're gonna use, because there's already a couple little Easter eggs that were used already, and it's Kraven the Hunter, man. Kraven the fucking Hunter. I wanted to make a point to get this book. Again, this book falls in your boy's Venn diagram of, I'm stoked to have this in my collection. Kraven the Hunter, first appearance, ASM 15? What? And it cost me, a pretty penny to add this to the collection, so I damn well better like it. But I really think that this character is going to show up. I think he's going to be done well. Just like, bro, the Vulture and Mysterio have been two excellent fucking executions of villains. That's one of the biggest problems that superhero movies in general have. Is all they worry about is the heroes, the heroes. If you ain't got a solid villain in your movie's probably gonna be shit. That's why Suicide Squad was so fucking bad. Um, they did a pretty. I thought the first half of Suicide Squad was pretty dope. They were introducing all the characters. They were pretty fun. You got Harley, you got Deadshot, fine. But the second half, the third act, and even a lot of the second act, usually revolves around the villain. You start showing the villain. What are they up to? And then their inevitable collide. So if you ain't got a good villain, that one had the fucking Enchantress. Boo, that shit sucked. If they did the obvious choice of make Joker, he was in the goddamn movie. You had maybe the most famous and coolest villain in all of comic books in your movie, the Joker. And you didn't think to make him the fucking antagonist of your film? Are you smoking crack? DC? Anyway, my point is when you go back to historically bad superhero movies, they all have dog shit villains. And Marvel's doing a good job with that right now. But not always, they can be hit and miss too, but Spider-Man's doing it right. Craven. Agreed. Now, there's other kind of character specs too. See, these last two character specs I showed you, Black Knight, Craven, they're even the Spider-Punk and the Silk. That's specking on characters within an existing universe already, right? There's other kind of spec that I kind of like to do that is just more long shot shit. That there's no established property that could host that character, and I'm kind of just thinking that it's going to be used somewhere down the line, So I'm going to show you those now. But before I do, let me holler at the chat because I'm kind of blabbing a lot and I'm not even really able to keep up with the chat very well. So let's keep up with the chat right here. How much did that go for, Kenny? Ooh. A girl never tells. No, I'm just kidding. I'll tell you guys. I paid, it was 500 and change that I paid for this book. Maybe it was like 520 or something like that. But I definitely paid a little over $500 for this in Baltimore. Which, I guess it's not like a super screaming deal, but I think I paid under the GPA price and stuff, and that's what I paid. Let's see. I think they'll do him really well. I just never liked Craven. Oh wow. Yeah, I mean after reading Craven's Last Hunt, I mean that's the version of Craven. Granted, I haven't read like a ton of modern Craven stories, but Craven's Last Hunt just showed me, goddamn, this character has a lot of meat on the bone when it comes to him and Spider-Man. He hasn't heard Dollar Bin Fodder. I haven't heard anything on Craven besides the news that came out from Charles Murphy that next year would be Craven. Right. Yeah, I haven't heard anything definitive either. So that's kind of really just, that's why this is in the category of character bets. Me just betting on certain characters. You know what I'm saying? But I think a lot of people agree that that's probably a character that is worth specking on, and Sinister Six will happen, no doubt. That's a good point too. Of who do you think is going to be their Sinister Six, and maybe you can spec on those villains. Kachung, my favorite X-Universe character is Madeline Pryor. She could have her own movie altogether. Her story involves Sinister, Goblin Queen, New Mutants. Yeah, no doubt. I could see that. She's like a good... One thing I can say about Madeline Pryor is, you know how they always have to have like the straight man character, the POV character, who's usually not like the super OP. They're usually like an even-keeled character. I think she fits the bill on that. It's the same reason why Shadowcat is usually your POV character on a lot of X-Men books, because she's pretty normal, she's not OP, and stuff like that. Oh, I think I might have missed. What's up, Magic Lasso? Sorry if I missed some comments. I'm going to keep it going. So character bets, right? This was another one that fell in that Venn diagram of I really like the character, and I think they'd be crazy to not do something more with this character, or at the very least, more people start really fucking with this character, and that's a Crush. I've mentioned this a few times before, but I think Crush is one of the few new DC characters that, man, I could just see this character being super popular. I think she's very cosplayable, which is good. That's good news for a character. If girls want to cosplay as them, that raises awareness. Because a lot of people, they go to these big cons, San Diego Comic-Con, right? If you see dozens of chicks dressed up like Crush, you're going to have more people saying, who is that? Who's that character? That's when normies are going to start being like, I don't want to use that word, normies. That's when like non-comic book fans, mainstream cats, are like, oh, who's that? So that's Exhibit A. And I'm happy to report that when I went to C2E2, it was only one, but there was this one chick that was cosplay as Crush. And I was like, hell yeah. Her being Lobo's daughter, I think is good news for her. I think she could. I don't think there's like movie spec in Crush's future, right? But two things. I could very well see her starting to be implemented. I can't believe they haven't done it yet. In that the female animated series, I think it's called like DC Supergirls or something like that, where they have like Wonder Woman, Batgirl, Bumblebee is one of them. I'm like, I can't believe that she ain't at least in that, because little girls would love this character. She's like the cool one with attitude, you know? That's like why everyone liked Raphael in the cartoons on Ninja Turtles. They want to have the badass attitude one. And even if not that, in the comic books, I think there's even more potential for her to maybe have a dope miniseries or something like that. I want to see them flesh out her parents. Who's her mother, right? I think they shouldn't announce that in Teen Titans. I would like to see a Crush miniseries. And let's go through the backstory of who her mother is and all that shit, because she's a cool character with a great design. Bam. Another character bet spec. Yeah, Chris, that's a good. Yeah, not normies, but the unenlightened people. No way, they won't animate her just because she's Lobo's daughter. I don't know about that. Yo, Silver. Hi ho, Silver. Another character that is, again, no fucking news whatsoever, but I think is a good character bet, is the Machine Man, brothers. Machine Man. And I got kind of the 3 books that I think are great to have in your Machine Man collection, which is his first appearance in Space Odyssey number 8, his Kirby number 1, Machine Man number 1, and the volume 2 number 1. So fucking Machine Man, dude. I think there's a great movie within this character, because the way technology is nowadays and how we're so reliant on it and all that shit, you could do something really interesting with Machine Man now, in my opinion. So I think it's a dope character. that has potential. And this is just an example of I got a good feeling about him, and more people should know about him at the very least. But again, back to my key point is even if nothing happens, I am still stoked to have these books in the collection. You know what I'm saying? I'm always looking for that motherfucking crossover. Because I don't know. It's like I said, it's books that I like anyway, so it makes it like a fun part of the collecting for me to spec on shit that I like. Yo, what up, Biggie Shack? I don't know if I shouted you out, Biggie Shack. Makes me think of Lawnmower Man. Yeah. Anyone's been specking on Atlas books? You know, I guess I'm glad you brought that one up because that's more like optioned. That falls in like that option, the category that I spoke about earlier. Um, I don't know about that. You know, I think they're great books to have in your collection, Atlas stuff, but I can't imagine really any kind of breakout property happening. You know what I'm saying? With that. Spec isn't always spec. Sometimes spec is taking a risk on something new. Mm, can you elaborate on that? Machine Man, that's a stretch 84. Sorry, bud. Don't think it'll happen. Yeah. Well, here's the thing of what I think about Machine Man. If they did a Machine Man property, I don't think it would be like he would be in the MCU running around with fucking Spider-Man and all them. I think he could be like a dope, more serious toned standalone film, you know. But that's just me wishful thinking. I would just love to see that. So I'm like, maybe someone else would love to see that. But I think you're right, dude. That's in the long shot category for sure. Hey, what's up, Bueller? Hey, no sir, no sir. I do those kind of far and few in between when I feel like I have enough stuff that I want to sell that'll like good for the boxes, but it's not really a regular thing. So far, I've done 2 batches of 15, and that's it. I don't want to. I don't want to even put a box out there unless I think I can deliver fire. And if I was to do that right now, I think I'd be sending subpar boxes out. So I'm gonna hold off. What other books did I pull to show you that are like kind of spec minded? Oh yeah, my last. So let me go to my last category. Boom. Oh, whoops! I grabbed the wrong one. Long term spec is my last category. Long-term spec, and spec isn't even really the right word for it. This one kind of falls more in the more appropriate word is undervalued books that I want to get earlier because I think that in the long term they're really going to increase in value. I remember one time Reggie Collects did a video where he showed like a chart of like the big boy, bigger boy keys, over a span of like since they came out from the 60s to current. And man, those certain big marquee books, they just like they just went up. There's like little dips here and there, but in the long term, man, those big key books I think are good to have in the collection. Hulk 181 falls in that category for me. To me, this one is like obviously going to be a centerpiece of my collection. I'm pumped to have it, but that's a book that I think in 10, 20 years, I'm going to be very happy that I own that book. I know a lot of people that my buddy Bobby, that I get a lot of my stuff from, he almost every time I talk to that guy, he mentions that he kicks himself in the ass for selling his Amazing Fantasy 15, right? Um, because yeah, it was already a big book when he sold it. You know what I'm saying? That was a big book. Spider-Man had already been in movies, all that shit. But it it doesn't I lost my train of thought. It was already a big book, but he's like, man, I would have never known that that was going to double, triple in value. Um, I don't think that applies across the board to all of those kind of big Silver Age keys, Bronze Age keys, but I do think it applies to some of them. And that's where books like Hulk 181, Giant Size X-Men, um, Fantastic Four 48, my Fantastic Four 50, was it 51, first Black Panther? I kind of put that one in that category too, even though it's not as big a book as those others I mentioned. So there's books like that too. And mainly I'm saying that because of the X-Men and Fantastic Four acquisition. Like, don't sleep that you saw what Disney did to the Avengers, what Disney did to Iron Man. They turned those motherfuckers into household names. There's no you could walk through a fucking Walmart with in middle America, dude. Yo, Biggie Shack, I need you to test this theory for me. Next time you're doing one of your live streams and you're walking through Walmart, which which at least once a week we get Biggie Shack live at Walmart. Or even a gas station or something. Next time you're walking through, I would love for you to grab a random like middle-aged woman and say, "Hey, do you know who Thor is? Hey, you know who Iron Man is? You like Iron Man?" And I bet you just go, "Oh yeah, I love Iron Man." Disney made those motherfuckers mass appeal. And yo, if you don't think that they're gonna do that to X-Men, you're crazy. They spent a lot of, it ain't no coincidence that they spent big fucking money buying out Fox IP, like X-Men, like Fantastic Four. So Disney's like, even though they put out childlike wonder content, they're a goddamn shrewd business with bottom lines and investors, and they want to increase profits all the time and everything like that. So when they're making moves and making big buyouts, investments like that, trust me, they want to get a return on that shit. So it's no coincidence that right towards the Avengers Endgame and Infinity Gauntlet releases, Marvel buys X-Men and Fantastic Four, right? Yeah, no doubt. But you know what I mean. The Fox IPs in their movie division. It ain't no coincidence that towards the tail end of their Avengers saga, their 10-year saga, they put all that money into that. That's because the next 10 years is going to be, they can't keep rolling out Avengers movies. Sorry. People ain't going to be into it. They're betting the bank. They bet the farm on X-Men. And they're going to do this. They're going to give X-Men the same treatment that they did Avengers. They put big money into it. They made classic films, all that shit. So X-Men and Fantastic Four. I mean, this ain't breaking news. I'm not like, guess what, guys? You should be investing in X-Men keys. Like, everyone fucking knows. But again, books that fall in my long term, when I'm kind of like specking or choosing which books I want to spend my money on and which ones I don't. Yeah, I want my collection to like gain in value over years. Cause that'll just make me happy to know that my collection is a valuable one, and has maintained its value. And who knows, if your boy ever gets in a pinch, dude, and I gotta liquidate, hey, I like knowing that some of these comic books are as good as fucking gold bars, brother, as far as investment goes. I bet you if you look at the price of gold and the price of some of these keys, these like Silver Age keys, I bet you they perform better than gold does. Um, so anyway, clearly, X-Men and Fantastic Four, big keys, are a good idea. And I think that even though a lot of them are expensive now, because when the buyout happened, a lot of those shit started to spike. I get it. But in my opinion, I think that they're still good buys. Because 10, 20 years from now, the way I feel about it is that those motherfuckers will be super household names. And to bring it back to like the initial point I made right in the beginning of all this, the more you add mainstream attention, the more you increase demand for that book, the more value goes up. It's just simple economics, baby. Okay, I've been yapping too much. I hope this video didn't come out like preachy, not preachy, but like I'm gonna tell you how to do it, how to spec shit, because I don't really know what the fuck I'm talking about half the time. So, you know, this isn't so much I'm teaching you how to do it, of I'm just filling you in on what's going on in 84's brain when I'm playing the spec game. Okay? So, boom, this has been the 84 hour, episode 1. I'm not sure when episode 2 is going to be, but when it does come, like this edition, I'm going to focus on like a particular topic and try to have more focused, you know what I'm saying? Focused topic of conversation on these shows. Before I head out, I did not represent, because my sponsors pay big money to get shout outs on this show. So before we check out, I gotta give a great big shout out to one of my sponsors. Kellogg's waits for you, that spirit comes shining through, promising you a great day. Start your morning with a balanced breakfast, okay? Kellogg's has been putting out high content cereals, stuff that's very healthy for your children, like Lucky Charms, just to name a few. Lucky Charms, Fruit Loops, Captain Crunch, particularly Captain Crunch. We made the whole thing Marshmallows edition. Remember that one? We're talking balanced breakfast. So don't sleep on Kellogg's. Appreciate your support, Kellogg's. And also, you got a date, skin's looking great, cause Clearasil's ace, face to face. Wash your fucking face, man. You gotta get rid of them zits, dude. Use Clearasil if you got that acne, brother. The and of course, real rising star in the community. Great product. We're talking DGC. DGC is a community-based slabbing company that isn't worried about the grade condition of your book. 9.8, 9.6, 9.2, who gives a fuck? You want your book to look nice, okay? And when you want a nice presentation, you don't want your book sitting in a boring long box. You want to present that book in a way that shines so that everyone can enjoy the book. That's why you get a DGC slab. It works really well with stuff like original art, like this. Basically comes in like a comic skin plastic. It's got a security sticker on the bottom. But the real shining point of these are these fantastic labels, custom labels. You get to choose your grade, actually. So that's real customer service. CGC could learn something from DGC. I want to choose my grade, dude. That's bad customer service. You give me grades I don't want. So in this case, I chose 84, so he happily obliged. But you see, he's putting a lot of good info and graphics up there on your DGC slab. Oh shit, look, I put it in the slab with a piece of tape in there. That's funny. And not just your sketch covers. Look at this. Oh my God. D, you outdid yourself on this one, bro. Thank you so much. Look at this book was already pretty to look at, but goddamn, look at that shit with the DGC treatment. Like, I'm not bullshitting. That is fucking nice. The color coding you did is fantastic. Again, I told him, make that shit a 10, brother. He cropped out the image. So cool. So, shout out to you, bro. Props to D-Runk Comics and DGC LLC. Shout out to you guys that have joined and participated in the chat. Terry, what up, man? Chris B, Silver Age Dave, the Unruly Simon. He said, you ain't got to sell me. Oh, I know that, bro. Comic Mag Musings, Geek Strengths and Comics, Louis Ramirez, Aaron, Biggie Shack, Grod. Hell yeah. So many fantastic people in here. So this has been the 84 hour, even though it was 90 minutes. This was the 84 hour. Till next time, y'all. Happy hunting.